Welcome to the podcast.
All right.
Pilates for PTs, from business to clinical. Hi y'all, my name is Stephen Dunn. I co-own Core Therapy and Pilates in Austin, Texas, and I'm the founder of Pilates for PTs. I've been a physical therapist for over 20 years, and I've been teaching Pilates and Gyrotonics in my physical therapy practice for the last 15 years. In this podcast, I interview experts from all over the world so that you can learn more on how to grow your business or how to improve your clinical skills as a Pilates instructor in the physical therapy world. Thanks for listening.
All right.
Hello, welcome everybody. It's Stephen Dunn with Core Therapy and Pilates in Austin, Texas. And today I have a very special guest on the podcast with me, and it's Miss Madeline Black. Hi, Madeline. Say hi real quick.
Hello, everyone. It's so great to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. I'm going to tell a brief story of how Madeline and I met, and then I'm going to ask her a couple questions and give her the floor to tell us all kind of great information. But basically, it was about 2002, and I was just getting into the Pilates world. It might have been the summer of 2003. I can't remember, but it was either 2002 or 2003. And I was at the Mind, Body, Spirit conference in San Jose, or right outside of San Jose. And I was a total newbie to Pilates. I had no really idea what I was doing. And I showed up at a conference saying, hey, this is a place where I can kind of see what other people are using, how other people are using this work in the field. And I noticed that there was a select few people that were really teaching rehab-oriented stuff. And that's what I gravitated to. And Cheryl, my wife, who's also a Pilates instructor, is gravitated to more of the fitness stuff. So it was really great because we were at a conference where she could do what she wanted to do and learn what she wanted to learn. And I got to learn with these group of people that were doing it rehab-based that really helped influence me and influence everything that we've established in Austin at our facility Core. So with that said, my mission is to interview every one of those original instructors that I had. They didn't know me at the time. I was just a student. I was just a silly student in the back of the class trying to keep up. But these were the people that influenced me that have led to, again, Cheryl and I being able to grow and blossom our business in a non-traditional way as a physical therapist, but also in a non-traditional way for Cheryl as a Pilates instructor. So with that said, Madeline, tell me, how in the world did you get interested in Pilates originally?
Well, I came from the dance world, so Pilates and dance kind of go hand in hand. I have to say I was probably one of the few dancers that was not injured to go to Pilates.
Uh-huh.
I chose to do it because I wanted to be a stronger, better dancer. So, you know, when you want the leading edge, you got to train harder. So dance classes weren't enough.
Got it.
So that's really, and it was, like 1989, 88, I first had explored Pilates through a book, that very first book by Gail Eisen. And now I'm blanking on the other person's name, but it was the only Pilates book. It was all mat work, because where I was living and working in Minneapolis, there was no Pilates. You had to go to New York or LA. So, and then when I went to New York in 1989, then I just dove into it.
Got it.
Yeah. So, and that was interesting times because it was pretty exclusive work. You were either a dancer, starving dancer, or a wealthy Upper East Side person.
It was pretty selective.
There was nothing in between.
Yeah.
So, and then I landed in such an interesting place because Pilates was actually dying out. It was, I remember a dancer, I was in a rehearsal and it looked like she'd been up all night, and I made some comment to her, like, whoa, what were you doing last night? You were out all night, kind of thing. And then she told me I was having to move the studio out because the IRS was coming to get the owner, and we were moving out and everything. And it was like the place to go. And so it was really shrinking, 1989, the boom really hadn't happened.
Yeah.
And I ended up in my dance career wanting to work with a choreographer in San Francisco. So I decided to relocate from New York to San Francisco. And there was no Pilates The dancers did it at St. Francis Memorial Hospital. That was it. But any layperson, any normal, no one knew what it was at all in San Francisco at all.
For the general population at that time.
No. So St. Francis, that's where it's so interesting is that's where I met Elizabeth Larkham, and I met Nora St. John, and Mercy Sidbury I had already known from the dance world. I'd already been working with her. So it was just kind of this little dance world, and that's who was at St. Francis pretty much. And they probably occasionally would have an ordinary client, but it was pretty much the dancers, the San Francisco Ballet and the modern dancers in San Francisco. But I needed a job. So I opened a little tiny space in San Francisco. So I can claim I was the first private studio in San Francisco.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I knew what. Just doing the basics over and over and over again with people.
Got it.
They were all new people coming to it. No one knew. If you asked anybody on the street, if you walked down the street in those years and said, what is Pilates? People would have absolutely no idea. So there's a big change from now. Almost everybody knows Pilates.
In Austin, there's a studio on every corner, kind of like Starbucks now.
Yeah.
It's become a very, very, very popular fitness thing for fitness and for rehab as well. So,
but do you know that people still don't know it's a guy's name?
All the time. We have that conversation all the time at the studio, and it's quite entertaining.
Yeah.
And, I still get a lot of clients that they just come see me because someone's told them I can help them, and they don't really know what Pilates is or what gyrotonic is. They just, or even what manual therapy is. They're just there because someone said, "Hey, go see these guys." And I'll have people after they've been in our world for 2 months, and they'll say, "Hey, what's Pilates?" And I said, "Oh, it's that machine you've been working on for the last month." Because so we still get some people that don't know what it is, but that's a rarity. It's usually people are finding us because of it. But every once in a while, again, we get those word of mouth. It's like some random 55-year-old man who's never ever heard of it.
That profile.
Exactly. So
and in Texas too, Stephen. So
that's right.
As opposed to California.
Yeah. So you got to San Francisco and realized there was really a need to serve the dance community more. So you went out and opened your own place. And were you basically serving the dance community?
Yeah, actually, I wasn't serving the dancers. Yeah, I wasn't serving the dancers. I needed to work and I wanted to teach. So I just opened my own little space. And I had regular people. I really didn't have I had a few dancers. And then those dancers turned out, I ended up training them to be teachers.
Got it.
The
dancers became teachers.
I was really working with people who needed help, So I wasn't really focused on dancers.
Now, how did you start developing that niche of people finding you that needed help, that were not looking for the dance rehab or the dance training?
It's just so... it's a good question. I think I'm blessed, I don't know. You do good work and people come.
Yeah.
My first space was in one of the worst neighborhoods in San Francisco. I mean, we're talking shootings. It was bad. You have to think 89, 90. It was a bad neighborhood. But I got into this warehouse, and even the space was kind of sketchy. There was a police station across the street, so that was the only good thing. But it was it was like the worst location you could pick. But I got myself associated with this woman who started a day spa. Now, I didn't even know what a day spa was. There were no day spas. So they were ahead of the curve. Yeah. And they really knew this building was like a loft building. It had a beautiful view of the Bay Bridge. I mean, it was amazing. And today it would be a great location. But back then it wasn't. So it was just something I could afford. Mm-hmm. And then through her clients at the day spa, some of these people started coming to see me, and the word got out that I was able to really help people and change their bodies. And so it just, build it, and it grew. And then I ended up moving to a different neighborhood, and then I kept progressing closer to the Golden Gate Bridge. So I went from the Bay Bridge over the Golden Gate Bridge, and everything just slowly started to grow,
And then you finally got to a point to where you got out of San Francisco and had a home studio for some time, and then a private studio in Sonoma. Tell me about that evolution a little bit.
Yeah, well, rent. So I know it's all relative. Today, people would be like, your rent is nothing. But back then, the rent was really expensive to have a 1-bedroom flat with no parking in a neighborhood where the police are constantly chasing, car chases up your street, and the neighbors getting, robbed by gunpoint.
Yeah.
And I was paying what I considered could be a mortgage payment back then.
Yeah.
And it was killing me to pay that high of a rent, knowing that it could be a mortgage. So I just right away was like, you know what, I got to find a house. I want to buy a house. But, you can't qualify. I mean, it was difficult. So at that time, Sonoma was not on the radar. So I couldn't afford really anything in San Francisco unless I wanted to live in the projects area, which is what I was living next to. So I couldn't afford that. And then I couldn't afford Marin, if that's just across the Golden Gate Bridge, that already was out of my. So as you start heading north, I figured I'm going to be commuting. So I thought, I love Sonoma. It's a beautiful place. So what's a 20-minute commute at that time was 40 minutes, right? Now it's way more than 40-minute commute. But at the time, it was a 40-minute commute. And I thought, if I'm going to drive 20 minutes, I might as well drive 40 and be in the most beautiful place. And I found a house that I could afford. I qualified for it and nailed a house. So for 5 years, I commuted to a body of work. That was the name of the studio, which is still an amazing studio in the Presidio. Jean Sullivan's the owner now and has been running it for a very long time. She's done a brilliant job. But I, for 5 years, was commuting. So I started the home studio because I wanted to develop a studio in Sonoma. But at the time, Sonoma was very rural and a lot of farmers.
Yeah, little sleepy
It
town.
wasn't the tourist thing it is today.
Yeah.
So people were saying, what are you doing? You're moving up with a bunch of cows and sheep, you know what I mean? And farmers, you're going to get any business? But I ended up tapping into the horses. There were a lot of people with horse ranches and a lot of riders. And so I started to practice at home, but at the same time, I was working in San Francisco. So as I, started to develop Sonoma, then I started doing less to San Francisco. And then Jean Sullivan bought the studio from me. And then I was able to really develop Sonoma. But it took about 5 years to do that.
Got it.
The commute was tough, but, I was young then. I could do it.
When did you open Studio M in Sonoma?
I bought the house in 1993.
Okay.
So, and I sold a body of work in San Francisco in 98.
Got it.
So that's about the timing. Yeah.
And then how long did it take for you to go from your home studio to the studio on the street that where Cheryl worked with you?
Yeah. I was really trying not to have a studio. I really wanted to have a small practice. I had a child. I had a son in 94. Yeah, I wanted the mom to take him to school and do the school thing and be the mom, right? But I just couldn't help it. I mean, more teachers were coming in and they're all working in my house, and then more clients were coming. I just couldn't be like, go away, So I think it was 2005 that we got that space. So it was quite a long time.
I think it was before 2005.
Maybe it was 2003.
You know why? Because we moved to Sonoma in 2003.
Okay, then it was 3.
We got there in like September. We got married in August of 2003.
Right. And
we moved to, I'll finish the story. We moved to Sonoma. I took a travel contract job at the local hospital. It was a 3-month gig. We moved there. Cheryl and I just got married. I'm like, Cheryl, if you can find a job, great. If not, it's only 3 months. We'll move to Texas after that. The first week she walked into your studio and she came back to me and says, hey, I got a job at Madeline Black studio. And she didn't know who you were, but I knew who you were because I had just taken the class with you either that summer or the summer before. I don't remember which year it was. Yeah. But we were there in 2003, and then we left in July of 2004 to move to Texas, and that's when we got to Austin. So that was like one of the blessings for us because we turned that 3-month contract into roughly about 11 months. Right. Once she got the job with you, and she's like, hey, I'm going to learn something from Madeline every single day. And it was great because her and I were working together, but her and I had kind of different passions, and like I was helping her a lot with my Pilates practice, but I still was using my hands a lot as much as I was teaching Pilates. So for her to get to work with you in your studio and get to meet Brian and all those people that were there at the time, it was really, really great. And that's where she got exposed to gyrotonic, which really, has changed her, what she's been doing for the last 15 years. So with that said, Sonoma was a very special place for us. And we were there a year, and it felt like we were there for a lot longer, because of the relationships that we developed with you and Bill and again, Brian and Jane and everyone in your world. And so with that said, I know it was at least September of 2003, and I think it was pretty newly open though. So
It was June or July that we opened in that space.
Yeah, because it was new and beautiful, and it was like, for us, it was the nicest studio that we'd ever seen. We'd been to several studios in LA, but they were a little more clinical based, because I was learning in PT world, and so it was really nice to see, to see it modeled in a. And again, you're doing some fantastic work that's way beyond what I think is just normal Pilates. And so, but it didn't feel like a clinical space at all. It felt very homely, very.
I have having been in the dance world and studied a lot of art. I have such a passion for aesthetics and art and beauty and things like that. Let's say the cover of my book is a friend of mine's painting. So I have, so that's what I tried to put in the studio too.
Yeah, that's the big piece. That's in the studio, right? That big piece in the hallway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember that piece. I notice art everywhere I go, and people are always shocked because I'm like a big old jock, and and the things that interest me are not things that people expect. So I know that art very well. So with that said, tell me a little bit about the next phase in your career, where you went from your house to a studio where you're training trainers, you got bunches of people working for you, and then all of a sudden you're traveling the world and teaching people all over the world. You're writing books, you're doing online stuff. Let's talk a little bit about that. To me, that's what's really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I owned a studio for 30 years. That's a long time. I mean, more than one studio, but I've been in the studio business for a really long time. And frankly, I'm 61 now. And, I'm looking ahead to, how many years left do I have I'm going to work at a certain level. Not that I'm going to stop working,
sure,
but because I just love doing it. But there's a certain point where I want a different quality of life. So I'm trying to shape my future business around that. And I'm loving my development of my Madeline Black method and my courses on immersive training. So it got to a point where I feel like I can say, all right, it's really hard to teach a 3-hour workshop. Like you go to a conference and you're asked to teach for 3 hours or 2 hours, and you have to do it several times over a weekend, different topics. It's exhausting. Yeah. And I feel like the teachers who sit there get just a little bit of information and a little taste, but they don't really grasp the depth of my work. If you're learning choreography, I can learn choreography in 2 hours. So that's fine. But that's not what I teach. So I decided that's it. I'm going to start doing 5-day intensive. So, and then I developed these series of workshops. So that's what I want to do now. So I'm trying to, and my schedule is getting extremely full with the 5-day trainings. So it's working. People are coming. People want it. I didn't know if people would want to do that, take 5 days as opposed to a weekend thing, but they do. They're interested. So, I just took a risk and say, all right, this is what I'm going to offer. And I'm going to say no to these other things because this is really what I want to do. And it's so rewarding. And the 5 days go so fast. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Everybody says that. They're like, what? It's day 5 already? So I think it could be longer, but it makes them hungry, when they're doing that. And then I've been exploring more and more different movements, besides the classic Pilates movement or the classic gyrotonic movement. And, I have a yoga background as well. So, and I've been super interested in, gait patterning and the motion, spinal mechanics and all of that, and the effect of, the foot on the whole body and the neck on the whole body and all that stuff and movement. So and for my own body, I have some issues that I've been really, really working on. So I've created a lot of these little exercises that I think are super interesting. So I just started doing a membership so that I can post a lot and have, right now I have something like 55 videos on a membership only access. So people can read a little bit and then have the video access all the time to all 55. And I'm going to keep posting. It's just my new site came out today. It's live today.
Awesome.
And so I had to wait I have a whole bunch of videos sitting in the queue, but I couldn't put them on because I knew the whole thing was going to change. So I had to wait till it changed. And I'm going to start downloading even more videos because I've already filmed them. I just had to wait, But I also still have the free blog as well. So I still want to offer, information for people to question. I love to have dialogues with people, but so there's also the free blog, which is more writing and some little short video, but I'm writing more extensively in the blog part.
Mm-hmm.
Loving writing. So
what's that blog post? What's that site?
It's www.madelineblack.com.
And what's the new website? Is that
That's it? Yeah, madelineblack.com. Yeah.
That'll have the blog site or the membership site on it all together. Got it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. And I have little videos on there too about the trainings, which are really nice to watch, I think. And I even have some testimonials on video to watch these teachers. It's quite remarkable.
Now let me ask you: these incentives, are these people that are already trained and certified, and you're taking them to the next level? It's not certification, correct?
No, it's not certification because, as you know, in the U.S. anyway, right? Accreditation, certification comes from a third-party accreditation.
Yes.
So if you do like ACE or ACSM, you're not tested by the organization who's giving you the training. Right? You have to sit for the exam to a third party, and that's what the PMA does. So technically, that's a certification. For me to say you're certified in the black, I could do that if I want, but it doesn't really mean anything.
No. I don't mean it that way. I mean the people that are your students. They're already trainers. They're already teachers.
Yes.
They're not getting trained to become teachers. They're already teachers diving deeper into their work.
Correct. I've had mostly Pilates teachers, but I've had a few gyrotonic teachers come in because it's about movement per se. It's not particularly about Pilates, though I use the Pilates apparatus but then I do a lot on the mat and I use a lot of props, lots of props. So you can do the same kind of technique, with props as you can with, the equipment. So it doesn't have to be equipment based. And I've had a number of yoga teachers come too.
Got it.
So I love that I'm attracted. I've actually had a couple acupuncturists come.
So you're getting movement people, you're getting healers, and so that's
what I'm looking for. Yeah. People who want to use movement in their practice as a healing modality.
Yeah.
Right.
So you kind of have this very specific audience for the type of, instructor that you want to work with or teach, just like you've kind of had your own specific audience of the type of client you've wanted to work with.
Right.
It's just kind of evolved from client to instructor now. That's what I see. It's kind of cool. I'm just saying, I like that. I love it, because you've been really clear on who you want to serve from the get-go. I asked you about dancers. You're like, no, it wasn't the dancers. So again, that's new information for me. I love that. So you knew at the very beginning that you had a gift that you could serve a certain type of person, and you've continued to find that person. And now you've got however many trainers working at your studio, and you can go off traveling the world teaching other instructors at the level and the depth that you take it with your clients.
Yeah, actually, I don't own Studio M anymore.
Oh, is that right? I did not know that.
I became free. Yeah, Susan Aslin, one of the teacher. Remember Sue?
I do.
Tall, blonde. Yeah,
I do.
And she's taken over. She's running it now. Jane is still there.
Oh, Jane. I love Jane.
Everybody wants a Jane.
I know.
She's great. Yeah. So she's still there. So everybody's still there. It's just Sue is now taking the lead in terms of running the studio. And I still see clients there. So I love it, Steve. I show up and see clients and I walk out the door.
Yeah. That's kind of nice.
So, that's something I had to let go to pursue as much traveling and teaching that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And writing, I want more time for writing. So I have a couple of new book projects about to start to happen. So
Now let me ask you, because like I've seen you again. We've known you personally and professionally for a long time now, and I've totally seen you grow in the Pilates industry as an influencer. And with that said, as you've grown and influenced more and more people, let me ask you this: who led you to start thinking about online memberships and books and like, was that something that you figured out on your own? Did you have a business mentor that taught you that? What kind of led you down that path?
I never had a business mentor.
I love it. I love it.
I never did. I've always kind of figured things out myself, Stephen.
I love it. I love it.
I credit, my studies early on with Marika Molnar, who's a physical therapist for the New York City Ballet. She's been a dear friend and my early mentor, teacher, and Jean-Claude West also early. When I moved to New York, that's when I met both of them and worked with both of them, And, I said to Jean-Claude recently, I said, I really owe a lot of my direction in my work, to you. And he looked at me and said, what are you talking about? A little key, you opened the door and you just ran for it. Like you just, and I did. I just immersed myself in any kind of education, reading books, working with great practitioners, great sessions from you, Stephen, the hands-on and, osteopaths that I've worked and studied with. And I mean, I just kind of went crazy to get all the information that I want, but I bring it back to the movement.
Yeah.
You say, I want to bring it back to the movement. So no, I just kind of figured it out. I mean, I knew people were doing this kind of thing, online, and I just felt like it was a way for me to reach people. And then also to, have some income since I knew I was giving up the studio. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big income change, but the trainings are really going well for me. So my income actually has really gone lateral. It didn't drop.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's amazing to me.
And you're probably working less with less stress. And
I don't know about that.
Yeah. It's just a different business you're running now.
It's a different business. Yeah, I get to be home a little more often. You see, work at home. I actually am sitting more, which is shocking because I'm usually standing all day long, right?
Yeah. So your body's adjusting.
Oh, yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, the reason I asked because like 3 years ago, I stepped away from taking insurance as a PT, and I really did not have a plan on what I was going to do. I just was so pissed off and done with the insurance that I was like, I'm done. But I realized that I needed a plan. So I started studying with a business guy, and I've actually studied with 2 different business guys over the last 3 years. And everything that they're teaching me, everything that I've been learning from people since I've dove into business, because again, before that, people just showed up at our studio. We never had to market at all because I took 2 insurance plans, and it kept me busy, Cheryl busy, and the whole staff busy because of that. And once I stopped taking it, I had to learn how to market. I had to learn I started blogging. I started doing, podcasts. I started doing all these things that I didn't know much about. And I really enjoy it. It's like what I have as much fun talking to you and hearing more depths of your story. And it gets me energized and buzzed when I go back to work and see clients all day. Whereas before, it was only clients that would give me that energy. Seeing clients was the only thing that I could do that made me feel like it was the passion. It was the place of worth for me. And now all of a sudden I'm realizing from what my business teachers have taught me, and it's exactly what you're doing. You offer the free course. Here's the free blog. And then here's my membership blog. Once you like and you trust me and you know that I know my shit, then you just join up for my membership. Then you can sign up for my courses. And so it's a ladder. And this ladder starts with free. And then it goes to something that's probably a certain dollar amount per month that's very affordable. And then it goes to something that like, okay, this is an expense and a business trip for me to go learn this stuff. But again, you're taking people up this ladder. And it's brilliant because it will allow you, once this is all continuous, to set up to work less and have the lifestyle you want.
That's the intention, right?
Yeah, I see it happening. I see it because I didn't realize you sold the studio, and that makes me realize, that really that helps you a lot with what you're building. Because I thought you were crazy, to be honest with you. Cheryl started telling me all this stuff the other day, and I'm like, how in the hell is she running her studio being gone for 5 days at a time to places that take 2 days to get to.
Correct. Exactly. I just did that, Singapore last week.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
so I love it. This is great. And again, this is why I wanted to do this, because you and I have known each other for quite some time. And now I get to see you grow. I'm watching you grow. I see you growing on social media. I pay attention. Trust me, I know what's going on. But that's the beauty of social media, right? But I really wanted to ask you more questions, because what you are doing is what Cheryl and I are setting up ourselves right now. I've got a course that I've got 2 courses now that I've filmed where it's all online, where people can go buy these courses, and I'm not quite done setting it up, but it's in that process where I'm going to be training physical therapists how to implement a Pilates program into their business, because the reimbursement's so bad today. Everyone needs a side hustle in the PT world to make it work. And so I've got a whole online course that I'm going to be offering, and everything I'm providing for free and getting this content out is to bring people up my ladder, and only a handful of people are going to take it. It's to a small population of people, PTs interested in Pilates. But those people that are interested, I've got now 15, 16 years of experience running a business in this market, and now I've got 3 years of experience running it in a cash-based market, which is totally different. And that's what I can share and help people set up and learn how to do on their own. So again, we're both learning how to extend our careers by going online and teaching others instead of serving those individual clients one at a time.
Right. I'm not really offering a training course. I've had people message me or email me and say, "Do you have any online courses?" But it's not what I'm doing is not a courses. It's really these are a series of exercises, and then I explain, it's for people to use. So, because I feel that the way that I want to teach my work really has to be in person. Yeah. Because I am transferring a lot of manual work and transferring information that you have to be present to feel it and to get feedback from me. Totally. It's amazing how when people lay their hands on me or their hands on another body, and I've got my hands on their hands, and I'm like, well, no, the direction is not just you want to hit the direction this way, or you're too heavy with your hands, or you have to use this part of your hand and don't push with this part of your hand, and all of that really detailed work. So I don't know if I see myself doing online courses. I mean, I have workshops on other sites, Pilates Anytime and Fusion Pilates EDU and stuff like that. Those are more workshops. So yeah.
And my courses are going to be more business side. It's going to be the business side of things. It's not going to be the clinical side at all. It's going to be, this is how you run a business. This is how you set up a Facebook ad. This is how this is how you do the nitty gritty stuff that people either pay someone else to do, or they figure out how to do it on their own, and it costs a lot of money and effort to figure it out on your own these days. So, but I love it. But yeah, and Cheryl has her own passions that she's looking into now, and kind of starting a new website and some blogging and stuff that, that stepping away from seeing clients at all and only doing teacher trainings and workshops and different stuff. So again, it's really great to check in and see where people are, where people are taking their career. Everyone's doing fun and interesting stuff. But again, we live at a time where the internet and the technology, it allows us to choose who we want to serve, how we want to serve them. And that's totally different than 2003 when I was living in Sonoma.
I still tell stories, like in my last training, I was talking about something and I was like, do you realize that back in 1990, I said, there was no internet. I mean, it was there, but none of us were using it. So I was like, so that person actually had to write me a letter or call me on the phone and not even a cell phone. It had to be at the office, so it's such a different time.
Yeah, totally, 100%. Now, Madeline, I know we're about to run out of time, but I want to ask you one more question, and this is something totally off topic, but I'm a big music nerd, and I want you to tell the story of Jerry Garcia, his missed chance to do Pilates. Could you please tell me that story? I got a few friends that are going to really appreciate this.
Well, when I had a body of work in San Francisco, when I was still the owner, we had a number of celebrities come because they live in San Francisco. All right. So the wife of Jerry Garcia, who is actually still a client at a Body of Work.
That's
Still
awesome.
comes. Yeah. All these years, she's wonderful. So she was coming regularly, and she kept saying to me, I really want to get Jerry in here. I got to get Jerry in here. She was just, but with his touring schedule and all of that stuff. So finally she made an appointment. He committed to coming, and we had to put his name under a different name in the book. Like, she didn't want anybody to know. Yeah. Not that we had a lot of people to see the book. I don't think it would have been a problem, but we had like a different name, but I knew who it was. He was coming to see me. And unfortunately, I think it was the weekend before he died. So he never got in. I know, it was so sad.
Yeah, I knew it was right around the time he was
right
supposed
there.
to come in. Yeah, I didn't remember the details, but
yeah.
And if you don't know who Jerry Garcia is, he's the lead guy from the Grateful Dead. You should.
Yeah,
but,
great music.
I have to say that to some of these younger kids. And one of the friends that we met in Sonoma that Cheryl became friends with was a couple. I can't remember her name, Arden, I believe. They owned a organic grape farm, and her husband was really good friends with all the members of the Dead. So they had a whole room that was like a shrine to the Dead with all the signed memorabilia and pictures of them hanging out with Jerry and Phil and everyone.
Talking about the Kotori, right? The
Yes, that's exactly right. That's right. And it was so cool. Like that, we had dinner at their house right before we moved to Texas, and they showed me all that stuff, and it was just one of those, like, being a music nerd, like, I missed the Dead. I didn't see.
Well, who you've missed out has been coming to Studio M to do gyro.
Who's that?
Bob Skaggs.
Is that right?
Oh yeah.
I love it. Well, I remember the wife. Who was the guy? Who's the woman who was married to the guy from not Steely Dan, but the Doobie Brothers? The girl from Alabama with the real country girl from Alabama.
Oh, Mississippi.
Okay. All right. Close enough.
He's still coming.
I love it. Yeah, so those are some good memories from that time.
Sonoma has a lot of hidden artists, who have actually lived there for a long time, but they came there to hide out in the hills.
Yeah.
Robin Williams used to have a house up there too, but these they just kind of wanted to hide out.
Well, it was a nice place to hide out. We hid out for a year there. It was really fantastic. And I love Austin. Austin's been great to us, but that was a fun stop. And again, it was a stop that allowed us to, it allowed me to go snowboarding every weekend, which is what I really wanted to do, but it allowed Cheryl to learn and grow so much on her own. And for us, it was really important for her to have her own growth, not under me, because we needed to have our own identity in our world, in our business. And people always associate us together, but we really do our own thing, and we always have. And you really helped set that table for her, that hunger for knowledge, that hunger to keep learning, and that passion. So again, that's what this is about, getting the people that helped influence me and Cheryl in our early careers to see what's happened and in the last 15 years. And it's really fantastic to hear about your new website, MadelineBlack.com. It just came live today. I already saw it on Facebook, so I knew it came live today. Again, the beauty of social media. So with that said, I need to head out of here. Do you have any other comments, any way for people to reach out to you?
Really blessed that you and Cheryl moved to Sonoma, and I got to know you guys and share what I love with Cheryl. And it was very special, and I appreciate our relationship that's ongoing. Yeah,
for sure. It's been a real fun, long-term relationship that will continue. And Cheryl really appreciated the conversation y'all had the other night. She's been moving and grooving on this retreat thing. So I love it. So with that said, thanks a bunch for your time. I really appreciate this. I'll have this shared out into the group real soon.
Okay. Take care.
All right. Take care, Madeline. Bye now.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. And if you did, could you do us a favor and leave some love and write us a review? My name is Stephen Dunn. I help physical therapists incorporate Pilates into their physical therapy practice. If you would like more information on how you can incorporate Pilates into your physical therapy practice, then like my Facebook page, Pilates for PTs.